Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 635 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Simon Gough. And if you want to hear a story about inspiration and sticking with practice, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's 635th edition of this show. And I have Simon Gough coming on from Halifax, Yorkshire, over in England. I'm really excited for this episode. I met him while I was speaking over in London about a month ago now, and just really excited about sharing more truth about chiropractic. Our aim today is to inspire the chiropractor that's possibly having a rough time in practice. And we are hoping that if you're thinking about a career in chiropractic, maybe we can inspire you to find the right place to go on with your studies to become the doctor of the future. Our big why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, freedom of speech. I think it's really important. That's something that's fundamental as an American, but I think it's universal as a truth in all society. Is freedom of speech is essential. And we've never censored anyone or shadow banned anybody or traffic throttled them because we know what that feels like. And we wouldn't do that to you. And we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same thing. And if you need guidance on either one of them, find a chiropractor in your neck of the woods. We also believe in protecting the sacred trust. It's BJ Palmer's last words. If you don't know what that is, go to the show notes and find out what BJ Palmer's last words were. And you'll know more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And as the show goes on, our big why continues. We support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know we shouldn't have to say that, but they're removing the lexicon and the languaging out of the colleges around the world. So if you're a chiropractic student or you know a chiropractic student, share the show with them so they get a chance to understand what real chiropractic philosophy is. And we're going to talk more about that as the show goes on. And then we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I know that sounds woo-woo, but it's not. And that's chiropractic. So, Dr. Simon, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, there's a lot of fundamental truth in our introduction. And I always kind of say, if somebody doesn't listen to the whole 30 minutes of us, at least they got a snapshot of reality of what chiropractic is. On our introduction. So thanks for holding through that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Now your why. Let's get into your story.
Yeah.
I think it's an important part, and you said that it ignited some things into you as you started to prepare for today's podcast. So tell us your story. How did you find your way to chiropractic?
So it was a bit of an accident. My dad is a family doctor, or we call it a GP, general practitioner, here in the UK. And I grew up in awe of him. He provided really well for the family, loved his job, and everyone in the town loved and respected him. And I thought, this is it. That's what I want to do. And I worked so hard, stayed in when friends were going out to play, worked really hard at my exams. When I got to the end of the equivalent of high school, I got okay grades, but not great grades that you need. You needed perfect straight A's to get in to medicine. So I went to, about the time, the church I go to, we go and do some voluntary work for 2 years. So I went out and I thought, right, I'm doing some good for the community. It will come back to me and I'll get these results. And I got them whilst I was out, but I'd not got enough. So coming back from that, went to do mathematics because I thought you've got to get a degree to get a job to provide for your family. I mean, that's a big lie that I'm trying to undo in my kids, that you don't have to have a degree to be a good provider for your family. It helps in many cases. Back in my mind, though, all the way through all these lectures, thought, I really don't want to do this. Don't think I'm going to be very good at mathematics or any jobs related to that. As good as that may be, that's right for me. And I started researching how I could then get onto a degree in medicine as a graduate. And I sat the graduate entry for medical school in England, the GAMSAT, sat it 3 times, paid an absolute fortune. It was a private test, 5-hour exam down in London every time. And 3 times I sat it, I got 2%, 1%, and then 2% off the pass mark to get in. And all the time, my wife at the time saying, maybe this isn't right for you. No, I've set my goal on this. I'm going to do this. Looking back, I think someone was trying to guide me towards chiropractic back then. I mean, at the age of 21, I met a chiropractor at a party, a friend of my wife's, and he said, you should do chiropractic. It would be really good. And I just closed my mind. No, I'm not interested because I'm going to be a doctor like my dad, because that's what I've chosen. The third set of results I got back, I was absolutely heartbroken. I'd been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for years, revising for this exam, then doing a full day's work, then playing with the kids. And then I'd sit this exam, and third time, just distraught. And I was in Birmingham, went for a run, I was staying at my in-laws at the time, and I just needed to clear my head, just went for a few-hour run. And I remember running past this really nice clinic in a nice part of town, thought, oh, chiropractors. I've heard about them years ago. What is that? If it's in this nice part of town, then maybe I could probably support a family. I mean, that's how base I was at the time. It was just money at that stage. And I remember the guy years ago telling me, yeah, this is a really good career. So I started shadowing loads of health professionals. So I shadowed a pharmacist, a paramedic, a midwife, a surgeon, 3 or 4 chiropractors. And out of all of those, the chiropractors just came out as enjoying their jobs more than anyone. I still had no idea really what the profession was. And I thought, yeah, this sounds good enough to me. It's as good as medicine. I get to help people. And if these clinics supporting themselves, and I'll probably make enough to get by. And that was about it. I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. Did 4 years of quite a mechanical based chiropractic, which I'm really grateful for. It's a good introduction. And then towards the end of my 4-year degree, I started going to conferences and people opening my mind up, going, oh, there's more to chiropractic than just neck and back pain. And just being wowed when I started hearing more and more about these amazing stories. And then when I started seeing those myself, it really opened my eyes up. I thought, wow, what have I got myself in for? This is brilliant. I thought it was just a way of providing for my family that was second grade to what my dad was doing as a family doctor. But it is just blown my mind how many times people's body have just responded in a way we wouldn't expect. They come in for back pain, they leave with less constipation, or pregnant when they couldn't get pregnant, or not taking medication, sleeping better, and a whole host of health benefits. So
I got to ask you, how did it go over with your dad when you told them, hey, I figured it out, I'm going to be a chiropractor?
Joe, he was so supportive. He's been really good with all of us 4 kids. Said, we'll support you, whatever you want to do. So when I said that, he's like, great, go for it. Whatever we can do.
That's astonishing.
he was really instrumental in getting my clinic set up and helping us out when we had tough months, encouraging us. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure you before the chat, you were talking about having 3 kids.
Yes.
I'm sure you pass on the same type of role model and encouragement to them.
Yeah, we've sat them down and said, look, I love this career and I think you'd do well in it too, but you've got to choose your own career. And our daughter, who left home 3 years ago, she'd always planned to be a medical doctor like her grandpa and my brother. And then she was going to be an artist. And we're like, go for it. Whatever you want to do. If that's right for you, we'll support you. And then at the last minute, she turned around and said, actually, Dad, I'm going to be a chiropractor. And she's 1 year off of passing, 1 year off of graduating now. Yeah.
Nice. And do you know where she plans on settling or setting up?
Not set that yet. She's still figuring that out.
Well, I'm sure it's quite an honor for you to see
Oh,
your daughter
amazing.
going in the footsteps.
Joe, it's so good to see that your kids doing better than you. I mean, if you just go on the grades at university and at high school, she's way, way better than I am. So I think she's going to do really well in practice.
Well, I'm sure she's been adjusted her whole life.
Mm-hmm. Since she was about 7.
Yeah. See, there's a lot that goes into the power of the adjustment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's powerful how it can change the dynamics of a person's life. And I was talking on a drive in Mexico City a couple weeks ago that if we just adjusted C1 and C2 of all the leaders of the world, we'd be in a different world right now because they wouldn't be subluxated. So yeah, it's cool to see kids growing up with chiropractic as a lifestyle choice. So I guess, making you unique in this chiropractic world, coming from a medical background, family, and now 14 years into practice, I think it's pretty powerful. And coming out of WIOC, you said it's more of a mechanistic school. How have the past 14 years been for you? I know that you said that you set up in Halifax, right?
Yeah. So we rented a room for a year and a half. We got Terry Chimes as a coach. Used to be a member of the Clash, the bands. One of my chiropractic heroes. He was one of our mentors when we started, and really instrumental in getting the business going a lot faster than I'd have done if I just did it on my own. Yeah. And that we've had a series of different coaches and mentors. People have really helped to get us to a better place than I could have done on my own.
Yeah, it's important to find people that can help us with our careers and plug into us and support us. And I think that, even the top level athletes in this world, whether it's football in the UK or baseball over here in America, like there's a hitting coach, there's a base running coach over here, over there, there's coaches for conditioning, there's coaches for strength, there's coaches for set pieces, and there's just different types of coaches. And, just like any great chiropractor out there, there's a group of people that help you get to where you're going, including your father and mentors. And I think it's really important to honor them. And, the reason I love this show is because it gives people a chance to reconnect with their friends and family, their colleagues, their patient base. And it gives people a chance to see, oh, that's why Dr. Simon believes the way he believes or does what he does. And it's quite honorable for people to hear the snapshot of these episodes, because a lot of times people, they drift away to their own life and they forget some of the reasons why people become chiropractors or why they're so committed to the future of chiropractic. So it's really awesome for you to share some of these insights on who you are. Let's talk about maybe the future of where you see helping students. I know that was a spot that you was hoping to inspire people on today. What message would you give to students that might be thinking about chiropractic?
There are very few schools that will teach you chiropractic as you need to use it in the field. And that's just the way it is. We can try and change that, and that's we should, but at this stage, just get your paper, go to a school that's okay, and then expect that when you graduate, then your learning starts. Okay.
So did you feel like you got a well-rounded technique while you were in school?
It was certainly enough to get started. That was good. I feel the academics had taken control of the course. I'll give you an example of this. We did 2 modules in microbiology. So we spent hours and hours looking over microscopes and slides and cell structures, which is interesting. But then when you said to them, can you teach us how to assess an elderly person or a baby or this particular problem? The answer was always, well, that's a postgraduate thing. We're not focusing on that. But we are going to teach you loads and loads of detail about the cell or some crazy obscure disease that no one in their career is ever going to see, but we're going to teach you that and test you that.
So you feel like it wasn't loaded with technique and it wasn't loaded with philosophy and the art of chiropractic.
We were given enough technique to get by, definitely. So hats off to that. But no philosophy, not of the art of chiropractic as such.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, like building a practice.
Yeah.
What did you do to help build in the first 3 years to get yourself off the ground and start getting busy?
Worked my backside off every day. There's no 2 ways about it. You cannot. I mean, some people strike it lucky and don't have to put much work in, but you have to just work your tail off. I mean, when you graduate, you think, I'm the doctor, I've got this degree and everything should just happen for me. But you've just got to do all the spinal screening events, go and talk at clubs. You've got to, put adverts out, stay late, call people, everything you can, and keep asking and asking everyone how do I do this? And just be willing to learn and learn, make mistakes, learn some more. 14 years in, I feel like both on a business sense and a technique sense, I'm scratching the surface of what we can do. And I hear this from people who are 2-3 times further into their career that you shouldn't ever go, right, well, I've learned everything I can. I've still got so much more to learn.
Yeah, it's important for people to understand this, that, people sometimes come to me, Simon, they're like, you're so successful. And I go, did you want to hear about my day?
Yeah.
I think that's the truth of it all is, do you know what time I woke up today? Do you know what time I woke up yesterday? Do you know what time I went to bed? And it's not saying that I'm trying to impress upon people that you shouldn't sleep. But there are many miles behind somebody's perception of you becoming who you are.
I think the richest patients I've seen are usually the ones that didn't go to university but have been persistent and hardworking way beyond the age of university. Whereas I think I got it in my head that I just needed to get that degree under my belt and everything would sort itself out. Because kind of that's what happened to my dad. He went into a nationalized health service and did have to work, but he didn't have to hustle to get the business so.
Yeah, and that's the thing, most chiropractors go out there and they build their practice brick by brick, adjustment by adjustment. And then you actually have to get the confidence to ask for referrals too. Like that's a big thing in the chiropractic space is, you can go out there and do all the screenings and you can go out there and do all the talks and you can become members of clubs. But really the best practices I've talked to are the ones that become referral based. And that takes a lot of courage and confidence too, as a young practitioner, to say, hey, can I take care of your family too?
Yeah. Can you give me a Google review? Can you do this? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The power of asking. I was once told you get everything that you don't ask for. So I've always tried to be a bit more ahead of the curve and humbly ask, but say, hey, we actually ask everybody we interview to do a 30-second video review for us, and ask them to say a couple nice things about the podcast and what we're doing for the profession. So, I think that it's honorable when we have over 150 of them, when we ask people and people are willing to go out there and say, hey, James is doing great things with Chiro Hustle, and same way for a chiropractic office. And when you do get the the reviews from your patient base, people buy off of reviews. You know, the person with the most stars on a Google, they're going to come to you because that's third party validation. People buy through what other people think and say, unfortunately, but maybe fortunately too.
And the asking is so important. I mean, you just mentioned Google reviews. People say, "Oh, how have you got so many Google reviews?" I think we've got like 230, which is not a lot, but in our profession, it's quite a lot. The reality is, I'm good at what I do. I'm maybe not the best in the area, but a lot of that has come because I've been willing to ask. When someone has a good experience, please, could you give a Google review? And I might have to ask 10 times before someone gives one. So you can imagine how many times I've asked.
I know how it goes.
And so, you've just got to be willing to put the work in. We set a goal of so many times per week we ask for a Google review, and so many times we ask for a review, a new patient, a referral per day.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Yeah.
So let's spin into a little bit into the question set a little deeper into it, because I know we're coming up. We have about 10 minutes left, but heroes. You were talking earlier about some of the people that have inspired you. Let's lean into that a little bit and talk about some of the people that have helped you become the practitioner you are today.
Yeah. So although my idea of chiropractic differs from what I was taught at university, I'm really grateful for the great lecturers that taught me there. You know, I've got to mention Dr. Byfield, Dr. Keir, Dr. Webster. They might not like the way I practice now, and that's fine, but they've given me a grounding. They've opened the door for this great profession. So that's a start. At university, I mentioned Terry Chimes. He came to speak to us. Liam Schruble came to speak to us. I went to do his mission trip in Peru about 12 years ago. Just brilliant. Everyone needs to do at least one mission trip. We've had a few other mentors, so Mike Reed. We've currently got Joe Borio, phenomenal chiropractor. He's really transformed our practice. I thought we were doing well, and it's just shot off since we've used him. And then non-coaches, actual chiropractors, I've been really inspired by Paul Lindsay. He's over in Oregon at the moment. Benny Matthews, Jason O'Connor, Tom Waller, Mike Paul, Ross McDonald. I'm just amazed what he's doing with the Scottish College of Chiropractic. We've been sponsoring the College of Chiropractic in Scotland to get up and running for several years now, paying them every month. And then my wife as well, not a chiropractor, but she had the faith for us to sell our cars, our house, get a massive bank loan, and then support me through 4 years of university while she looked after our 2 little kids, asking me all these questions. She really had no idea what chiropractic was about. She was just doing it to support me. And she's embraced it, and just by default has become the practice manager and has learned to take x-rays and is now, I'd say, just as big a part of the clinic as I am. And people come to speak to her, and the uplift they get from her at reception just as much as they do for the clinical, the adjustments I give.
You know, it's really honorable for me to hear you say those things, because so many times we don't pay tribute to understand that chiropractic is a family business.
And my daughter, she, at the age of 8 even, would help me do spinal screenings, handing out leaflets, checking, and my son, that age and younger, would help me put the tent up in the field for the summer fair and take it down. And yeah, totally a family affair.
And even back to the original comments about who's inspired you. Liam Schubel, I mean, what a hero, right? What a great man for this profession.
Yeah.
And to create opportunities for people to go international and to practice real chiropractic. What a great man. And listening to you, like with Joe Borio, I wasn't even on the radar, and I went to the First Mile High conference in Denver, and I saw him as one of those speakers, the featured speakers. And I heard him say probably 70 times during his talk, tell the story. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Chiropractors need to tell this story because people don't know what chiropractors actually do.
Yeah. I think that's one of our roles is education. The adjustment is massively important, but certainly in Britain, I'm sure it's the same in every country. People got no idea what healthcare is, what chiropractic is. And no matter how many times you tell them, it's still, oh, it's back pain and neck pain. I'm out of pain, right? I don't need any care. Well, no, and just continually drawing analogies from things they know, dentistry, weightlifting, diet. You'd never treat your body like that, your diet, so why would you have this rubbish idea of healthcare of just doing things when you're in absolute crisis?
Yeah, there's a far into the spectrum of explaining things, but there's also making sense to people, logical sense. And that's where it comes into play. Like, you're not always going to appeal to people when you rah about why you do what you do and how it can help them with lifetime. But somebody's going to have a logical approach when they hear somebody talking about staying healthy, because right now we're in a huge crisis where people are, drowning in a medical world that doesn't know how to help them. And they're losing faith in the modern style of healthcare, and they're looking for something. They just don't know it's called chiropractic.
One of the things that attracted me to the profession, the chiropractors I shadowed in Leeds and Yorkshire, they love their jobs and they're all healthy. Whereas so many other professionals in multiple health professions I saw were massively overweight. They had really bad health habits and they didn't enjoy their work. And I thought, you're really setting a horrible example to your patients. Just 1 second looking at you, I can tell you're not a healthy person and not even trying.
Yeah, there's so many incongruencies in the way that people run their personal lives. And, one of the things I tell people all the time is people, if they knew what we know, they would do what we do. And that's why chiropractic to me is very congruent. And the people that practice chiropractic, you have a code, and that's to take care of people, but you can't take care of people if you don't take care of you.
Yes.
And it is a full-time sport, pushing on people, touching people, moving people, positioning people, finding your line of drive, delivering the adjustment day after day, time after time. It takes a lot of intention and integrity, and you can't do that if you're not feeling right.
No.
So over the course of your career, share with us some things you've seen inside of your clinic that might inspire other people.
Yeah. We've had 3 ladies who previously had tried IVF and lots of other ways of trying to get pregnant and nothing. And after a course of a few months of chiropractic care, had got pregnant. I have to be careful who I say that to, but I haven't got these ladies pregnant myself. I've switched on the nerve supply so their reproductive organs can start doing their job, but it's just been a privilege to be part of that.
And I think it is. It's a massive privilege to be able to care for people and to get them to the next stage of their life and let their dreams come true and to give them a family. And I think it's really powerful. And I tell people all the time that the reason they call it an organ system is because it's organized. And there's a spinal column that goes to the vertebrae nerve, goes to the organ system. If that organ system is not functioning because the vertebrae has a subluxation in it, then how do you think it's going to have a reproductive, possibility? Or how do you think that the body part where these nerves are going to is going to be healthy? It doesn't like fundamentally make sense. So if you can remove the interference that's going to the reproductive organs by a specific chiropractic adjustment to the lumbar spine, removing the interference going to the organ system, well, then you reorganize that pathway to allow the body to heal the way it does naturally. And then things actually start to function the way they're supposed to. And I think that that's a part that a lot of people have a hard time putting words to. But yeah, when you take the pressure off the nervous system, the body functions and operates naturally the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. And because there's so many other factors, it's hard to prove that every time you do that, it's going to have this result. It's just elevating the level of health. And you're in practice long enough, you're going to start seeing these miracles.
Well, I used to, when I worked in a clinic, many people that watch the show know that I worked in a clinic for almost 6 years. And one of my responsibilities was going to professional networking groups and giving the 10-minute talk when it was our time to present. And I was like, how am I going to make sense to this room full of professionals about chiropractic? So I put up one slide, and it was an abscess tooth. And it showed the swelling around somebody's gums. And I go, do you know why chiropractic works? Because when they adjust you, your spine looks just like that when you come in pain, but you can't see it. But that's what inflammation looks like in soft tissue around your bone. And I said, if you don't want that, then come see us.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting that.
And I think that if people knew what it looked like underneath like the skin level, it wasn't just like pain. If they knew that it was inflamed and they knew that the tissue was swollen and had edema, they would have a different responsibility to take care of themselves with chiropractic services, because they would know that that's the only thing that's going to help them.
Yeah. I thought if you got time for another success story,
for sure.
I've got like 20 I was going to share, but one 15-year-old girl playing water polo in our town. There's a bit of a pushing and shoving, and she gets an elbow or knee or something to her neck, and it's really sore. She gets out, and over the next few days, she doesn't just have neck pain and headaches. She notices her arm's just totally dead, until she wiggles her neck, and that takes the pressure off the nerves, and then the arm comes back to life. Now, this progresses and progresses. She goes to all the checks at the hospital. No one finds anything. So they prescribe psychiatry. We're going to counsel you out of this. And basically saying, you're making this up. We think you're doing it for attention. Mum's furious that this healthy girl who was doing sports every day goes in the water to play polo and then comes out with this problem. We assessed her, agreed with the hospital that there was no need for surgery. There was no fractures, no big thing that's going to need medical intervention. But feeling within seconds, you could feel exactly where those subluxated vertebrae were in the neck. So we started adjusting these. And at this point, she was having a flare up in all four limbs randomly. One would go dead for at least half an hour until she could wiggle the spine and take the pressure off the nerves. And then it would come back to life. And these flare-ups went from every single day to every other day, weekly, monthly. Brilliant. And then we had to hold her back. So like, don't go straight into that intense sport. Let's try some gentle ones first. Now that on its own is a fantastic story to give this girl her life back. But as we get better, most people tend to do this in their recovery. It's not just a linear up, better. So this girl, we thought everything was cleared up. She'd had weeks without any flare-ups, and she's just sitting at school writing at the desk, and then all of a sudden all four limbs go completely dead. She can't move arms or legs. So at that point there, she's a quadriplegic. Now there's no point taking her to the hospital, because they'd just look up her notes and say, well, we've done all our checks, we don't know what's going on, send her for counselling. So mum calls me a little bit later in absolute tears, convinced this girl is going to be in a wheelchair. I'm going to have to feed this girl to the day I die, and she's never going to achieve anything because she's going to be stuck as a quadriplegic forever. And it took quite a while to calm the mum down and say, look, we don't know that for sure. Let's at least get her in, assess her. We've had some success so far, so let's see what we can do before we jump to that conclusion. So we get her in. Now, mum pulls up beside my clinic on the road, and this is the one and only time I've had to carry a patient in. So I go to the car, pull the door, and I pick up this 15-year-old who's almost an adult size and carry her in to the practice and lay her down. And inside, I'm really nervous, thinking, what am I going to do? This is way more severe than anything I've seen at that stage in my career. I thought, well, my job is just to find those subluxations in the spine, analyze them and then adjust them, and then let the body get on with healing itself. So I'll do that, and we'll just see what happens. So told the mum and the daughter this might take quite a few visits before we get any response back from the nervous system, the motor nerves. We adjusted her, and I was thinking wouldn't see much and would have to carry her to the car and back forth multiple visits. So I adjust her the low back and the neck, and she just jumps up and says, oh, yeah, that was really good. Thanks, Simon. She's wiggling her arms. She said, oh, I think I'm going to go back to school now. I think if I hurry up, I can get to my English class because I've got an exam next week. And she had no perception of the severity of what was going to happen if this hadn't improved. But the adults there, her mum particularly, was like, oh my goodness, what on earth? So we learned a lot of lessons. Don't let your educated mind completely dictate what's going to happen. Sometimes just do what you can and let the innate intelligence do its job.
Connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual.
Don't put a time limit on it. In my head, I think it was going to take way longer and it was shorter. We sometimes get it wrong the other way. Progress can be up and down like that. There's always hope as well. So many times, every chiropractor I speak to you, people come in and say, oh, I've been told nothing can be done. This is my last hope. I've spent loads of money and I want a miracle. And a miracle happens after they've tried all these supposed experts, just because we're trying a different approach, allowing the body to heal itself.
The great Clarence Gonstead, one of his famous lines was, find it, fix it, and leave it alone.
Yeah.
And BJ Palmer's is, the body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. When you clear the interference, the body self-heals and self-regulates. It's a self-healing organism. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the essence and application. So the philosophy does line up with the approach of the art of the adjustment. And if people just allowed the body to respond and to take nothing extra and remove the interference, that's why I said earlier, if we just adjusted C1 and C2 of all of the politicians in the world, we'd be living in a much different world and culture and society than we currently live in. And people would be clear. Their nervous systems would be clear. Their connection from brain to body would be clear. They would be responding to everything easier. There would be less disease and the body would be more in ease. And I think that that's really the powerful part of these success or miracle stories, is the body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. And people don't have to believe in chiropractic. It works without a belief system. And then, you know, Sid Williams, the great Sid Williams, would say chiropractic's like gravity. And he'd drop some keys to the ground and he would say, it works whether you believe in it or not. And I think it's a firm way to close up today's episode. Chiropractic works whether you believe in it or not. If people wanted to reach out to you, go to CALDERDALE chiropractic.co.uk. And that's the website for Dr. Simon's clinic. And it's at calderdalechiropractic.co.uk, correct?
That's the one, yeah. Or they can reach out to me on Facebook, Messenger, yeah.
Great. Well, this is episode 635 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to touch on today?
Um, I I think one thing I would say for all chiropractors is just be respectful of other people's way they practice chiropractic. I think that's one of the things that really upsets me. We were taught a very mechanistic way, and that's fine. I've no problems if people want to practice that way. My only issue is when someone is totally vitalistic and they slag off that way of chiropractic, and someone is very mechanistic and they say, well, I've got it right and they're totally wrong. You know, if we take the example of faith, it would be totally inappropriate for a Catholic to say Jehovah's Witness has got it right, or the Jehovah's Witness to say the Muslim's wrong. And you need to be respectful of each other's ways you practice. You're going to have a lot better results if you do that than constantly bickering and arguing over who's got the best way of doing it and who's right and who's wrong.
I agree with you. And I believe that I gave a talk 5 years ago in Boulder, Colorado, and the talk title was Unity Through Diversity.
Yeah.
And I believe that you have to create interprofessional relationships and learn about each other, about why you're the same rather than why you're different.
Totally.
And I think that will be a good lesson for your young daughter as she's coming out of university and going into the workforce as a chiropractor. Build your relationships with other chiropractors, and they don't have to practice the same as you.
Nope.
And don't turn your nose up on them if they do things a little bit different.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I thank you so much. I'll let you get to bed. I know it's 1 a.m. over in the UK, and it's dinner time for me. And I'll close out like I always do, and I will say you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Have a good night, Dr. Simon.
Good night. Take care.
Right, bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.